Hello, a pleasant day to each and every one of us. By the way, I am Juna Kabungbong Masangay, a second-year student from BSED 2. The topic that was assigned to me is Chapter 1. It is all about philosophical thoughts in education. Without further ado, let's start. Isolated facts and the banking concept of education. Most lessons are devoted to teacher asking low-level questions and students answering with what they memorized the night before. Teacher deposited these facts a day before and withdraws them the next day. Isolated facts. It is not learning in any useful sense of the word. So basically, it is not knowledge. Isolated facts, or what we call random information, does not have any use to us because it doesn't connect to anything else. Isolated facts existed only because of our limited sense and intellectual equipment. The banking method of education is a term used by Paulo Freire to describe and critique the traditional education system. He is very much against this method because according to him, this method reinforces a lack of critical thinking and knowledge ownership of learners. The information does not make the learners connect to their real life, which makes the facts or the information inefficient to the students. So we have here a grade 3 science class scenario. We have a teacher, student, question and answer. This example is a common classroom scenario in where the teacher asks the student low-level questions and then the student simply answer those questions. As what we can observe, it is lack of critical thinking and there is no scope for use of cognitive skills. Those isolated facts may become meaningful when we combined or when the teacher combined it with the other facts. So in this scenario, the student learned that the food is broken down into small pieces, digested by the stomach, and absorbed by the intestine. So, in order for the teacher to connect the facts, the teacher should do further questioning and ask more questions like, what if the food is not chewed in the mouth? What happens to the food in the stomach and to the stomach itself? What if the stomach fails to digest food from the mouth? What happens to the food in the small intestines? Will the small intestines be able to absorb food? And the list goes on. By connecting or by relating those isolated facts to the other facts, we can make those information a meaningful and effective learning to the students. So, we have here 6 philosophers of education on what should be taught and how learners should be taught. So, the first one we have John Locke, the empiricist. The first philosopher is an English philosopher, often classified as an empiricist, because he believed that knowledge was founded in empirical observation and experiences. According to him, education is not acquisition of knowledge contained in the classics. It is learners interacting with concrete experience. The learner is an active, not a passive agent of his or her own learning. A learner acquires knowledge about the world through the senses, learning through doing and by interacting with the others. Simple ideas become complex through inductive method, and when we say inductive method, those are through comparison, reflection, and generalization. He also questioned the traditional view that knowledge came exclusively from literary sources in Greek and Latin classics. He emphasizes that Students are actively involved in the learning process. They actively participate and involve themselves in any classroom activities rather than the receiver of information. From the social dimension, education is seeing citizens participate actively and intelligently in establishing their government and in choosing who will govern them from among themselves. They are of the thinking that no one person is destined to be ruler forever. This is in keeping with the anti-political dynasty belt. People are not destined by birth to be rulers. People were to establish their own government and select their own political leaders from among themselves. That's why civic education is necessary. He opposed the divine right of kings theory, which held that the monarch had the right to be an unquestioned and absolute ruler over his people or over his subjects. So, we have also Herbert Spencer, Utilitarian Education. Herbert is an English sociologist and philosopher, an early advocate of theory of evolution. He became one of the major proponents of modern curriculum theory. According to him, to survive in a complex society, Spencer favors specialized education over that of general education. Who is fittest survives. Individual competition leads to social progress. Spencer's concept of survival of the fittest simply means that the human development had gone through an evolutionary series of stages from the simple to the complex and from the uniform to the more specialized kind of activities. He implied that those who were most fit would survive the social world due to some biological mechanism that made them superior. The expert who concentrates on a limited field is useful, but if he loses the sight of the interdependence of things, he becomes a man who knows more and more about less and less. We must be warned of the early peril of over-specialism. We must be warned of the deadly peril of over-specialism. Let's say a person who knows more and more about less and less is a high-minded, eager, and devoted. It is an important trait and quite futile as an instrument of education. Of course, we do not prefer the other extreme, the superficial person who every day knows less and less about more and more. So, the next we also have John Dewey. Dewey was an American philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer whose ideas have been influential in education and social form. Dewey does not disregard the accumulated wisdom of the past. These past ideas, discoveries, and inventions, our cultural heritage, will be used as the material for dealing with problems and so will be tested. If they are not totally accurate, they will still be part of our reconstructed experience. This means that the ideal learner for Dewey is not just one who learned by doing, conduct an experiment, and etc., but who connect accumulated wisdom of the past to the present. John Dewey is often seen as the proponent of learning by doing rather than learning by passively receiving. He strongly believed that each child was active, inquisitive, and wanted to explore. Schools are for the people and by the people. This means that schools are a democratic institution where everyone, regardless of age, ethnicity, social status, is welcome and they are encouraged to participate in a democratic process of decision making. Learners and stakeholders, they practice experience democracy in schools. So, we also have George Counts, Building a New Social Order. George Counts was an American educator and influential education theorist, an early proponent of the progressive education movement of John Dewey. Building a new social order, schools and teachers should be agents of change. Schools are considered instruments for social improvement rather than as agencies for preserving the status quo. Whatever change we work for should always be change for the better, not just change for the sake of change. He wanted teachers to go beyond abstract philosophical conceptions of democracy and teach explicitly about power and injustice. He wanted teachers and students to count among their primary goals the building of a better social order. Problem solving like Dewey should be the dominant method for instruction. He also emphasizes that. Lag between material progress and ethical values. Counts assert that there is a cultural lag between material progress and social institutions and ethical values. Material progress of humankind is very evident, but moral and ethical development seem to have lagged behind. For example, science and technology made us very powerful, yet powerless. We have conquered a number of diseases. We even postponed death for many. We have conquered aging, the planet, disease, but we have not conquered ourselves. So, we also have Theodore Bramell, social reconstructionism. Social reconstructionists critically examine present culture and resolve controversies and conflicts to build a new society, not just change society. He believed that education had the responsibility to mold human beings into a cohesive and passionate society. Theodore Bramell, he is a philosopher and educator who supported the educational philosophy of social reconstructionism as a response to the horrors of World War II. He believed that societies should continually reform themselves in order to establish better governments or social networks. The social reconstructionists assert that schools should critically examine present culture and resolve inconsistencies, controversies, and conflicts to build a better and a new society. Technological era is an era of interdependence, and so education must be international in scope for global citizenship. So we have the last, but certainly not the least, we have Paulo Freire. Freire was a Brazilian educator and philosopher who was a leading advocate of critical pedagogy. Paulo Freire critical pedagogy versus banking method employ critical pedagogy and dialogue in contrast to the banking system of education. Rather than teaching as banking, in which the teacher deposits information into student head, Paulo Freire saw teaching and learning as a process of inquiry in which the learner or the child must invent and reinvent the world. According to him, dialogue is the basis for critical and problem-solving posing pedagogy, as opposed to banking method in education. It is love and respect that allow us to engage people, dialogue, and to discover ourselves in the process and learn. Learners are not empty receptacles to be found. Teachers must not see themselves as the processors of knowledge and their students as empty containers into which educators or which teachers must put knowledge.